Now the latest from ITV News Anglia with Becky Jago and Jonathan Wills.
Good evening. Welcome to ITV News Anglia.
Here's a look at tonight's main stories.
The butler crushed to death by a lift. Now the stately home where he died is fined more than £250,000.
Helping our children avoid temptation. Now one council wants to ban fast food outlets from near schools.
It's famous for its carnival, but has Luton got what it takes to be a city of culture?
And on the trail of the cuckoo, one man's intrepid photographic journey to Africa in pursuit of one of our most elusive birds.
Hello from Jonathan and from me. Welcome to the programme.
First tonight, the stately home fined more than £250,000 after the head butler died when he got trapped in a luggage lift.
The Burleigh House Preservation Trust was sentenced at Peterborough Crown Court today after admitting a breach of health and safety regulations.
Arthur Mellor was crushed when he tried to retrieve a piece of luggage that had jammed the lift, a lift that hadn't been inspected by a qualified engineer for more than 50 years. Stuart Leith has our report.
The partner of Burleigh House head butler Arthur Mellor was in court today, and in a statement, Gerwin Castillo described Mr Mellor as his inspiration. The 47-year-old died when he was crushed by a luggage lift at the country house 3 years ago.
The court heard a piece of luggage had jammed the lift and the wire holding it up had continued to spool out and went slack. And when Mr Mellor reached in and freed the piece of luggage, the lift dropped, trapping his head and shoulders against a stair balustrade. When he was freed, his head had turned blue and he later died.
Burleigh House in Stanford is a 16th century stately home which has featured in a number of television and film productions. It's the venue for the annual Burleigh Horse Trials and gets around 700,000 visitors each year. The lift in the private wing of the house was used by staff and the Rock family who live there. The court was told it had malfunctioned in the past, but no safety features had been added.
The Health and Safety Executive Prosecution highlighted the fact that the lift had not been inspected by a competent engineer since it was installed in around 1960. No slack rope detection device had been fitted and no safety gear to stop it from falling. No risk assessment had been carried out and there was no emergency procedure in place in relation to the lift. The executive said if a slack rope detection device had been fitted, it probably would have saved Mr Mellor's life.
The chairman of the Burleigh House Preservation Trust, Sir John Nutting QC, was in court for the sentencing. In a statement, the trust has said health and safety matters have always been paramount across all activities at Burleigh, and what happened to Arthur Mellor in July 2014 was a dreadful and tragic accident. The lift will now be removed from the house where it's been in use for almost 60 years. Judge Sean Enright fined the trust £266,000. He said it was sheer chance that previous incidents involving the lift did not have such tragic results. Stuart Leith's ITV News, Peterborough.
In other news, a prison officer is to be charged with manslaughter after the death of an inmate. It happened at Wood Hill Prison near Milton Keynes in April 2015. Joseph Travers is to be charged with gross negligence and manslaughter. He'll appear at Westminster Magistrates Court in April.
Police are investigating 3 suspected arson attacks in a village near Dunstable. Fire crews were called to Tottenham in the early hours. The roof of the Cross Keys pub was set alight. Fire crews only spotted it while they were on their way along Castle Hill Road to a separate blaze in a barn in Stanbridge Road, while earlier crews also had to tackle 3 burning sheds on a nearby allotment.
Police investigating how a bus was blown over during Storm Doris want passengers to come forward. The double-decker fell on its side at West Walton near Wisbech in 70-mile-an-hour winds on Thursday. 15 passengers were treated at the scene and 3 went to hospital. Police want to piece together what happened.
Now then, helping our children avoid the temptation of too much junk food. Not easy, but an important way of stopping them getting too fat.
Well, now Milton Keynes Council is chewing over the idea of banning new fast food outlets from setting up shop anywhere near schools.
Well, as Matthew Hudson reports, it's hoped the plan could help encourage the sort of sensible eating habits that last for life.
Healthy lunches at Emerson Valley School in Milton Keynes. What these youngsters eat now could have a big impact on their health in later life.
It gives you more energy and it makes your body more healthy. You get like lots of strength and your body's all healthy, and then you can do lots of things. You get lots of exercise and you can do lots of running. You do have most of it healthy, but some of it is a little sugary, but it doesn't have to be all healthy, but it'd rather be healthy. Grapes, mangoes, passion fruit, bananas and apples.
The school works with parents to ensure those who choose to bring packed lunches are also getting food that's good for them.
We notify the parents about the sort of options that children can bring in for packed lunches, and parents have the opportunity to pick the hot dinners for the children that they eat. So there's a different variety that, with extras of salad and vegetables. So moving forward, we would really like to have our own kitchen in school so we can really oversee what the children are eating.
But there's concern in Milton Keynes that older children can be tempted too often by fast food outlets close to their schools. The council told us, we want to do all we can to encourage young people to eat healthily. Research shows that where hot food takeaways are situated very close to school, young people will use them regularly. The area's youth council, which represents the views of teenagers, says many young people are also concerned.
We feel that it's definitely a step in the right direction. We're really glad that Milton Keynes Council is taking the initiative to really try and make a change and try and prevent child obesity. As in our manifesto, it was our third biggest issue that young people voted for.
Milton Keynes Council is considering stopping new fast food outlets opening within a 400-metre radius of any local school. It wants local people to tell them whether they think that's a good idea or not. Experts say children who struggle with their weight are more likely to be overweight or obese when they grow up, and figures show 2/3 of adults are carrying too much weight. The ban, which would not affect existing outlets, will be discussed at the next full council meeting. Matthew Hudson, ITV News, Milton Keynes.
Well, we've had some great comments from you on this topic. Time for just a few now. Alan Phillips, well, he apparently always had a packed lunch, which he dumped and bought chips. He says, I'm not obese and never have been.
Matt Savage reckons youngsters will just find it elsewhere. He says higher taxes for takeaways, that might do it. Interesting thoughts.
Yeah, David Rose disagrees, though, that they might find it elsewhere. My secondary school was a safe distance from purveyors of junk food, and we subsequently had lower instances of overweight children.
Let's have one now from Siobhan Turney, who says this is a free society. We do not need the LA to organise our lives for us. Children young enough will be collected from school by an adult. Those old enough should be educated to make good decisions. Cannot believe council time was spent debating this.
David Patterson says all these ideas will only ever work if the basics of life are taught at home. Sadly, in the fast-paced world we live in, it's just not happening.
Final word now to Damo Brandon Perks, who says for 2 years at school, breakfast, dinner every day. I'm not obese, he goes on to say. Is 15 years ago. We played sports with friends and were always outside being active. That is a good point, isn't it?
It is a very good point. Thank you, Damo. Right, next tonight to the town that's keen to put itself on the map as a city of culture.
It might not be the first phrase that leaps to mind when you think of Luton, but the town is seriously looking at making a bid for the accolade, as Liz Summers has been finding out.
Culture vultures don't necessarily flock to Luton. Think of the town and you may think of hat making, car manufacturing or the airport. But all of this could change as the Borough Council sets out plans to become a city of culture in 2025.
This bid has already got momentum behind it because we've already got Arts Council for England investing, we've already attracted investment from English Heritage, and we've got such a rich diversity in Luton. It's absolutely sensible for us to do this.
Hull is the 2017 UK City of Culture. It's seen a £1 billion boost in investment since winning the title in 2013. So benefits are clear, but what does Luton have to offer?
Culture in Luton can mean a lot of things. Its most obvious thing is how the wide, diverse culture of its communities. We have 2 museums that are in Luton. We have this wonderful arts centre in at the moment, a rich programme of public art, music, dance, theatre and festivals.
One of Luton's biggest is the Carnival. The one-day extravaganza attracts around 25,000 people every year. Artistic director Clarice Alandi thinks Luton would make a marvellous city of culture.
There's so much happening and so much about to happen, you know, the new developments. Carnival is growing and thriving. And to be the city of culture would just be an amazing boost for this whole community. I think it will raise the morale and the aspirations of everyone who lives here.
Councillors will scrutinise proposals this evening. A final decision on whether this is a realistic ambition or simply pie in the sky is due next week. Liz Summers, ITV News, Luton.
They want to go for it. Milton Keynes is going to have a go as well. Why not?
Good for them. Right, you are watching ITV News in the west of the Anglia region this evening.
Here is what's still to come in the rest of tonight's programme.
Captain's confusion, the controversial change of tactics that prompted some head-scratching for Dylan and the team.
It's back.
We'd like to take you somewhere where we can talk.
Broadchurch, the crime drama where even the stars have to work out their own theories on who done it.
And we keep putting them to Chris, the writer, and he's got a fantastic poker face. Just goes, oh.
And after a pretty grey start to the week for many of us, low pressure remains in charge of our weather over the next 24 hours. More rain to come our way, but how are the next few days shaping up? Join me later to find out.
Now then, it feels like it's a clue to a cryptic quiz question. We often hear it, but rarely see it.
We are talking about the elusive cuckoo. And one photographer from Cambridge has travelled all the way to West Africa to find out why its population is declining. Chloe Keedy has the story.
Catching cuckoos. Scientists from the British Trust for Ornithology are trying to work out why the species is in such sharp decline. Fitting these cuckoos with tracking devices has revealed for the first time where the birds spend their winter. And to understand more about the perils they face, a photographer from Cambridge has joined them on their journey.
The cuckoo's a prevalent bird here in Cambridge and across East Anglia. So it really kind of brought as a really exciting narrative to be able to take a bird that I'd seen in the wild and heard call in the wild here, very close to my own home, and then follow its migration thousands of kilometres away to West Africa and kind of help build that bridge between the two places.
The tracking research revealed that cuckoos migrating from East Anglia for the winter went via 2 different routes to West Africa's Boteke Plateau. Toby's photographs provide a first glimpse of what life is like for the birds when they get there. Cuckoo numbers in the UK are just a quarter of what they were 20 years ago. Toby's images are helping experts understand more about the pressures they face when they migrate.
The satellite work tells us where they go, but actually being able to send Toby out on the ground to actually understand, well, OK, where are these birds? What are the communities like? Because we think of cuckoo as our summer migrant, but they're only here for part of the year, and they actually belong to other communities other times of the year. So having Toby on the ground to actually document through photographs the people and the places where these cuckoos spend the winter is really important. It helps us understand the wider story about cuckoo decline.
Already a rare sight in Britain, researchers say it's a race against time to make sure cuckoos don't disappear. Chloe Keedy, ITV News, Cambridge.
Nice. Now that's a game changer! ITV Anglia Sports Reports, sponsored by Ridgeons, Timber and Builders Merchants.
Now, he's not sounding as clear as a cuckoo, is he, this evening, our Donny?
Poor Donny, a little bit of cold. It's caught your nasty
it was
cold
my
from
fault.
last week. And
I
there's
really
a lot to get
apologise.
through tonight as well, Donny, isn't
Absolutely,
there?
yes.
Controversy in rugby to start with.
Absolutely. For those not au fait with the laws of the game, I apologise now because even I was struggling to understand how England couldn't cope with the tactics of Italy yesterday.
Looked bizarre, didn't it?
Northampton's Dylan Hartley leading the England team, of course. The bottom line, though, is that England are still unbeaten. So, was it a defining moment in their Six Nations campaign? The ruck is one of the phases of play in rugby, usually contested by both sets of forwards. I say usually because England expected Italy to compete up front at Twickenham.
Once again, Italy not competing at the breakdown, so it doesn't become a ruck.
The fact they didn't for long periods confused the likes of Dylan Hartley and Courtney Laws, forcing the England skipper to seek guidance from the referee.
If there's no ruck, there is just an area around the tackle on the ground, making an offside line, and that's it. It has to be 2 metres from the ruck. 1 metre.
I was trying to figure it out for myself, actually. We obviously adapted and we wanted to play the ball slightly quicker and play around the ruck, not slow it down, because obviously when we slowed it down, we created an offside line that wasn't there, so they could come offside. I was confused by it.
It seemed to work for the Italians, but England hadn't gone 16 games unbeaten without getting themselves out of trouble, which they duly did. From 10 points to 5 down, they ran in 5 second-half tries, 2 coming from Jack Nowell. Only Ireland and Scotland can deny England a second successive Grand Slam. The Irish were savvy enough to deal with France, including Saints star Louis Picamole. Victory secured by 10 points. The winning margin was even greater for the Scots, featuring former Bedford Blue Ali Price over Wales. 29-13 it finished, so no joy for George North back in the Wales lineup. At least North and Picamole would have been pleased with their club returning to winning ways in the Premiership. Mikey Hayward crossed over for 2 tries as Northampton beat Worcester 24-14.
Great to get the win against a good side. We had to put in a good performance. I think our set piece went good today, and I think that paid dividends in the end.
More significantly, they're back in the top 6. England, meanwhile, are still top of the Six Nations. Thankfully, no confusion there.
It's brilliant, wasn't it? Even after the game, I'm not sure that Dylan Hartley could really explain exactly what happened there. But there is a bit of breaking news, or developing news on this.
Yeah, we understand that World Rugby is considering looking at the breakdown law. As you say, it's all about this gain line, offside line, whether players are interfering with play, not interfering with play, when the ruck's formed, when the ruck's not formed. You know, you can hear the referee all the time. Yeah. Absolutely. A lot to take in. It's a confusing game in its own right anyway, basically. Well, we mentioned Northampton Saints a short time ago. They'll be welcoming a new player next season. That's South African scrum half Cobus Reinach, the 27-year-old who's won 10 caps, will join from Super Rugby side the Sharks. Northamptonshire's Sean Murphy's hopes of landing snooker's shootout title ended in the semi-finals at the weekend. Murphy lost to the eventual champion Anthony McGill. Defeat 2 for the Hertfordshire Mavericks at home in netball's Super League. Team Bath were victors 49-42. And this is the car Red Bull Racing of Milton Keynes will hope provide the biggest challenge to world champions Mercedes in Formula 1. Winter testing started today in Barcelona.
Right, Donnie, it's getting down to the business end of the season for our football teams.
It is. Our league teams, or league teams in League 2, certainly have plenty to play with 12 games left as well. We start the section with the season-defining game for England's rugby. There's a similar feeling for Luton Town. Rob Halden-Pratt has more on this and the rest of the weekend's football.
A sense of a season-defining week for Luton Town too. They're still on course for a league and cup double, and the Hatters kept up their chase for automatic promotion at the weekend. Birthday boy Danny Hilton scoring against fellow promotion challengers Plymouth. Plymouth held the Hatters to a draw. Hilton denied a second by Oscar Threlkeld. Next up, the small matter of an EFL Trophy semi-final. Only Oxford stand between Nathan Jones's men and a place at Wembley. Cambridge kept up their playoff charge thanks to a win over Barnet. And that was due to Luke Berry's 16th goal of the season. They could close the gap to the playoff positions tomorrow. They just have to beat top-of-the-table Doncaster. Stevenage are just a point outside the top 7 themselves, and they'll have a big say in Cambridge and Luton's seasons. They have to play them both. But they continued their good form with a win over Crewe. And it wasn't Matty Godden's goal, though, that was the talking point. Rather, Jamie Jones's red card, a case of adding insult to injury. In League One, Peterborough's on-off relationship with the playoffs is back on again after they beat Rochdale, although chairman Darragh McAntony wasn't too sure. Jack Baldwin had an eventful day, having scored, being the victim of a rather agricultural challenge before heading to the showers early himself. MK Dons addressed their terrible home record with a 2-1 win over Shrewsbury. And this is the closest to a highlight for Northampton in a 3-0 drubbing to Fleetwood. They'll look to bounce back against Oldham. And could the East Anglian derby be season-defining for Norwich? Despite Jacob Murphy equalising Jonas Knudson's opener, the gap to the top 6 could be too far to bridge for the Canaries. Rob Halden-Pratt, ITV News.
Oh, loads of action there in the sport tonight, Donny. But obviously the story that everyone's developing on is going to be the rugby, and we'll hear from that about some stage over the next few weeks.
I would like to think so. Probably after the Six Nations, they'll have some definition there about what happens anyway.
Dylan Hartley would be pleased if no one else. Yes. Thank you very much, Donny. Thanks.
Now we're going to hand you over to Mary at 6:30, and here's a look at what's coming up in the national news.
The 5-year-old who died hours after a GP refused to see her. Ellie May and her mother were late for her appointment. She was told to return the next morning, but she died just 5 hours later. The first victims give evidence to the troubled child sex abuse inquiry more than 2 years after it was set up. And
there's a mistake.
That jaw-dropping moment the Oscars messed up. We examine exactly what went wrong. Do join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
I'm still gripping myself every time I see it.
Me too.
Now then, it is one of the biggest dramas on TV, and tonight it is back.
It is. Like the first two, the third and final series of Broadchurch stars Norfolk actor Olivia Colman alongside David Tennant.
And tonight you'll also see some new faces too, including Lenny Henry and Sarah Parish. Kylie Pentelow has been on location with the stars.
Cameras set, lights on, actors ready. After months of filming, the third and final series of Broadchurch is hitting our screens. Complete, of course, with David Tennant and Olivia Colman, who I managed to chat to between takes.
Was there ever a point where you guys thought, I'm not going to do the third one?
No. No, I don't think there was.
Nice job, well written, and they pay us.
I mean, the first one was a one-off, and then the idea came that we would do 2 more. So that was sort of, we kind of knew that if we did another one, we'd do 2 more. That was always the kind of the plan, wasn't it? So yeah, I mean, it felt like such a long way off when we agreed to that, and now here we are in the middle of halfway through the final series. It'll be very sad to say goodbye.
And what's this series like? How does it compare to the other two? Because the first two were quite different in feel.
There are many more dance numbers in this.
Lots of smiles.
Yeah.
Really happy.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's hard to know until you've seen it as well, because of course we don't get to see it. We certainly don't get to see anything finished for months and months.
And also, we get emails from lovely producers going, guys, it's brilliant. Yeah. But there'll never be a producer who goes, we're really worried.
We're stuck.
What's it concerning?
Ed.
It sounds hard. Can you make it quick? No. Can we talk in private?
Now you're the new girl. What's that like?
It's always really odd coming into a series that has been going for a long time. There's a certain amount of pressure that you feel. Broadchurch is very, very successful. The actors in it are very, very good. So you think, oh, you don't want to let people down.
Did you watch it?
I didn't.
Have you watched it now?
I've never seen it, no. And now I kind of then went, I'm not going to watch it, because then maybe I'll jinx it. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah, and try and be a certain way.
Yeah, so I haven't seen it. I haven't watched it. I don't want to see any influence at all. But what I'm going to do is, before this series comes out, I'm going to binge watch 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And then go straight into 3. So I'll literally Broadchurch.
Oh my goodness,
for 2 weeks.
You're going to love it.
I know.
It's really good.
I know. I've heard.
I think it's a different sort of story, and there's a lot of new characters in it. So we're investigating a crime sort of more than we have done previously. I think we're sort of meeting new people and finding out about them and investigating their lives. Whereas before, of course, the story's been much more sort of part of our own psychology, I guess. So that gives it a different flavour, but it's still the same. Still got the same tone, I suppose.
Does that mean that you two aren't so much the focus of this one then?
So far, yeah.
Well,
it's not. It's something that's happened to someone that wasn't a close friend of either of us.
Yes.
Right.
So we're
finding out about a lot of new people and trying to sniff around their lives.
We'd like to take you somewhere where we can talk. It's just a short drive away. Is that all right?
But even while they're recording, the cast themselves are kept in the dark about the plot.
All got theories.
We've no idea.
And we keep putting them to Chris, the writer, and he's got a fantastic poker face. Just goes, oh.
Either that or he's taking our theories away and writing them into episode 8. Yeah.
Everyone has.
He takes all the credit. We're coming up with it, really.
Everyone would assume that you know, the big stars know what's going on. They're in on it.
It's kind of quite useful not to, though.
In real life, you wouldn't know, would you? So it's quite an interesting way to work, and also it makes great conversation in the makeup truck in the morning. Who do you think's done it?
If you just suspect everyone's guilty all the time.
And we do.
Yeah,
We're terrible
we do.
detectives.
Yeah.
Let's hope not. Their final case begins tonight. Kylie Pentelow, ITV News.
It's a bit like the weather. You never know what's going to be coming up next.
Exactly. Too right. No storms in the forecast this week, though. I'm pleased to say.
Good.
At this
Bit of
stage,
everything
anyway.
else?
Yes, we've got rain. We've got some potentially some sleet and snow showers as well. So it's turning very cold and
Still
also
winter.
icy. Yes, absolutely. Feeling very chilly. But
It's
just
really
to
cold.
cheer things up before we get to the forecast, as ever, we've had some absolutely beautiful pictures taken. Let's take a look at this. This was sent in yesterday. That was taken in Milton Keynes, the sunset. Thank you, Francis Haddow,
Very
for
nice.
that. Beautiful, isn't it? And from sunset to sunrise. This also taken in Milton Keynes. That was sent
Someone
in.
up with the lark?
Yes,
Looks like
absolutely
Oriental,
beautiful. It does. I love the colours. And that was before the clouds set in, because obviously we saw a lot of cloud outside today, didn't we? And then we will finish my clicker. Oh, is it going to work? I think it is going to work. This
Is
lovely
it?
picture of
What are we going to see when we get there?
snowdrops.
Oh, no,
in
that's
Northamptonshire.
lovely.
Been seeing a lot
Yeah.
of those around, actually. It's been, we've had quite good weather for the snowdrops, at least. So
And those
that's
little
not all
aconites
bad.
there.
Exactly. So cold
And some
and
flowers too.
frosty. Love the flowers. Cold, frosty and windy weather is heading our way over the next few days. We will, though, still get to see some sunshine, but I'm afraid it is going to be in short supply. Cloud remains a feature, and as I say, getting chilly too. Here are all the details in the full forecast.
ITV Anglia Weather, sponsored by
So we've seen some pretty heavy showers across parts of the region throughout today, and we'll need to hold on to the brollies over the next few days. Our weather stays on the unsettled side. Outbreaks of rain, some of that heavy at times, some drier and brighter spells to come though, but it is going to be feeling a good deal colder certainly than it has been feeling over the past few days. So if we take a look at the pressure sequence, you can see we've got a series of low pressure systems to the north of the UK. That's allowing for weather systems to track their way in from the Atlantic, moving west to east over the next day or two. Thursday at the moment looking to be the better day of the week, drier and brighter, and then overnight Thursday and into Friday this deep area of low pressure will move in, as I say, turning things unsettled. Outbreaks of rain and some strong winds to come by the end of the week too. But before we get there, for the rest of this evening and overnight tonight, still a few showers tracking their way north and eastwards, likely just about anywhere. In fact, there is the chance some of those showers could turn wintry in nature. Many places, though, avoiding them entirely. Some lengthy clear skies developing, and underneath those clear skies, temperatures will tumble across the board. Lows down to around 1 degree, perhaps even down to freezing in some rural spots. So we are expecting a widespread frost and also some icy stretches to watch out for come dawn. So that will take us into a chilly start to the day tomorrow, but it's actually a fairly bright start for many. A few showers in the morning, but it will become drier. Some sunny skies developing, but wrap up warm if you're out and about. It's feeling cool in a strong breeze. Highs of just 6 or 7 degrees or 45 in Fahrenheit. The cloud will thicken from the west throughout the afternoon. Further showers likely. Again, there is the chance some of those could be heavy in nature. They will gradually clear away, and it's a drier and brighter start to the day on Wednesday before more rain arrives, and then it's looking brighter by Thursday. Have a lovely evening.
ITV Anglia Weather, sponsored by
She's not wrong. It's getting colder.
It is, and something very exciting here. The new nightly show on ITV
yes.
starts at 10 o'clock tonight. This week it's with David Walliams.
Therefore, I will be back with the late news update at 11 this evening. But for now, from the team here at ITV News Anglia, thanks as ever for watching us.
Have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.